Welcome back. We're chatting with Susan Stevenson, who is a city councillor in London, Ontario, who has made quite a reputation for herself for her law and order politics and her attempts to challenge some of the drug policies that have been undermining her city. Now, Susan, before we went to the break, you were talking about this activist approach to drug policy in London. Can you speak more about that?
Well, we have this built into our whole of community system response. It says that there's a focus on harm reduction, including the advocating for the decriminalization of of drugs, because they see that as a harm. That the criminalization of drugs is a harm that's part of our harm reduction program.
Okay, but when you ran for city council, you focused on changing the status quo and emphasizing public order and recovery rather than harm reduction and enablement. And so I'm wondering on your end, why did you decide to take that route? Was it in any sense iconoclastic at the time?
Well, honestly, I didn't realize we had the level of activism that we did here. That was something that I didn't realize. I assumed we all wanted to truly help people and get them, away from drugs and into a healing space. And so it's been interesting to get the pushback that I've had, because to even suggest recovery is to stigmatize.
Okay, and can you tell me more about what your critics have said about you or the kind of political positions that you endorse? And how have their criticism of you evolved over time?
Yeah, well, they came out heavy right away. And it seemed like every time I posted something, somebody was reposting it and making it out to be this crazy, nasty thing, right? So even language policing, in terms of I refer to people as addicts, and they don't like that. They said that that's a terrible thing to do, and that you should refer to people as people who use drugs. And so, right down to a small thing, people that I speak to refer to themselves as addicts, and yet I'm being demonized for using that term. So from just something as basic as that, there's pushback.
Now, are there any particular projects that you've specifically focused on that have been lightning rods for controversy?
Well, just questioning and asking for accountability around the programs and services that we're currently doing has been a lightning rod. So even to get contracts for the services that this particular council has approved has taken me money and time. So they charged 3.5 hours search time to get the two contracts for one agency that we approved last year. There were delays for 4 months. And then when I finally got the one contract, all of the expenses were redacted.
Okay, so there seems to be a significant lack of transparency in
Yeah.
the, I guess, in the procurement and in the implementation of these harm reduction programs.
Yeah.
Well, and has there been any, I guess, have other political leaders within London expressed concern about this? Because one would imagine that a lack of accountability would be concerning.
Well, very interestingly, it doesn't seem to be of a concern at all. For the public, it definitely is. But with other politicians, I'm not getting a lot of support for that. It seems as though asking for accountability is perceived as derogatory to agencies that are trying to help.
Okay, and it seems like not only is there resistance from your fellow councillors, there seems to be some level of bureaucratic resistance as well. Presumably, it shouldn't take 3.5 hours just to procure two contracts, or maybe there are just systematic problems here and
Mhm.
a really grossly inefficient municipal government.
Yep, it's something that we'll get to address with the public, because I think they'd be very surprised to hear this, and I will be bringing it to council and the public in the coming weeks.
And what kind of response do you anticipate?
I anticipate shock from the public and from my fellow counselors. I think they would be supportive of giving the public the information. It'll be interesting to see.
So if it is difficult to get these contracts and there seems to be a great amount of opacity around these programs, then how do we know how much money is actually being spent on fighting poverty and whether we're actually getting a good return on investment?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So I think how much is being spent, we know the total, but we don't know how it's being allocated, how it's being spent, what the outcomes are. Usually it's just number counts, how many people were served. We really don't know if it's actually helping the problem. And based on results, we've got a homeless and addiction, the numbers are increasing at about 5% a year. So all of this extra money does not seem to be, it's certainly not reducing the number of people on our streets.
Well, when we get back to the break, we'll talk about what response you've had from the politicians and bureaucrats you've been criticizing in this file.